All right, happy Memorial Day weekend, everyone. Tarun here, doing a solo podcast. I was thinking about this yesterday. I was shooting all weekend. My God, it was a black hole of shooting videos, but that's what I do, and it's another podcast. But yesterday, I was like, tomorrow I'm going to talk about selling cars because, I connected with a friend who I met there some time ago, and I was like, I got to talk about this because I feel like that was a really interesting part of my life, and I'm sure we've all been there. But, I think I mentioned this somewhere that I was selling used cars at CarMax. This was about, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. I've kind of blacked it out. But I'm going to take you through everything, and maybe there's something you can take away from this because God knows I did. So let's go back for a second. I was working as a manager, as a digital manager at this management company, and my job was to work with these celebrities, Tyrese Gibson, Eva Marcel, and I was losing money for this agency. That's a whole other thing. I don't get into details, but I was losing money. I was going to leave anyways, and then they ended up letting me go. And then I started my own agency. It was like it's digital. It's called Acclimate. And I had these influencers, and I wasn't doing shit for them because it wasn't a good experience. Let's be real. It was not a good experience. I was working with these really young influencers, and I'd bring them deals, and they'd say no. And I just ended up letting go of all my clients. I got so pissed off, but I didn't really think it through. I'm sure if you've listened to me before talk, you can kind of see my personality, but I didn't think it through all the way. And I let go of my clients, and then I started burning through my savings really fast, faster than I thought I would. And I was like, okay, I got to do something here. I got to land on my feet somehow. And I started applying to any job I could, anything. Whether it was like a waitering job, a cheesecake factory, or I didn't care. At this point, I think you reach a point in Hollywood where you just stop caring what anybody thinks about you. And it's a liberating feeling when you stop really caring. And that's where I was. And I got an interview at CarMax, and they called me up. They're like, hey, do you want to come for an interview? And I was like, what? You want me to come in for an interview at selling cars? I don't know how to sell cars. And they were like, well, you have sales experience. You can come, at least come for the interview. And my mom always told me to just go for the interviews. She was like, you can always just learn during an interview. And I was like, well, maybe this will prepare me for something else. So I drove to CarMax. It was like 35 minutes. I live in West Hollywood, and it was in Burbank. So, not the best commute, but I was like, I'm just going to go and check it out. It was a full day interview, I think. Or maybe maybe a half day, but I know it took up a lot of time. 4 or 5 different interviews. There's like a group interview, and they put you through like a role-playing scenario where you have to sell a car, and I did okay with that because I have sales experience. In fact, the guy I did the role-playing game with, Bob Schreiner, became a really good friend of mine. Great dude. And then they sit you down with a one-on-one interview with someone there who like really grills your experience and how you can really complement CarMax. And then finally, you sit down with a manager at CarMax, and they assess you, and then they ended up offering me a job there on the spot. I think they do that with everybody. They were like, hey, do you want a job here? And it's like a pressure thing where they expect you to say yes and commit. And anytime someone offers me a job that quick, I'm always kind of suspect. So I was like, I'm going to think about this. And they were like, what? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to talk to my dad about this. And I thought about it, and I was like, well, I got nothing going on. What's the worst that can happen? And I started my journey at CarMax. I was like, okay, I'm going to start selling cars, even though I know nothing about this. So I go in there. I try to put all my ego aside. I'm like, this is a good, honest, American, hardworking, blue collar job. Let's be real about this. This is a job which I'm going to do, and I can adapt to any situation. I'm really proud of that I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And they started this CarMax training, which was pretty comprehensive. It was like a month of training. They basically have you watch videos every day. They've got this CarMax system where you've got to kind of watch videos on your own. They give you this binder with like information in it that kind of like talks you through the videos. And every week you cover like a different aspect of car sales, whether it's appraisals, doing the test drive, selling the insurance packages, whatever. It's this kind of big ordeal at CarMax to get through the training. And you kind of have to do it on your own, but they also assign you a mentor. And my mentor was this Armenian guy. He was like probably one of the top sales guys at CarMax. It's like selling like 30 cars a month. This guy did not give a shit about me. I'll be real. I mean, I think he just said he'd mentor me because he wanted to become a manager on his own, but he did not care about me. And I kind of had to figure it out. And there was another guy there who I talked to who was my mentor, and he kind of helped me out. So I just got through the program kind of. Oh, and also I forgot this. So every week you have to sit down with a manager and they test you and they kind of role play with you and you got to pass. And I'll tell you, man, like the first thing I noticed at that job was the people there. Like, man, I came from a world, or comedians, first of all, are just out of their minds. But the agent kids that I was working with, I mean, they were like these Ivy League school kids, really privileged people. Let's be real. And then I went to CarMax and saw these kids who were, I mean, men, women, who were gangsters. They were so talented at what they did. And I realized, some people just have better opportunities. I was like, if these people just had the same opportunities that some of my agent friends had, I mean, they could easily make a killing in entertainment, but that's just how the world is. It's like, and what really bothered me was I felt like some of them were really short-sighted. Like they saw the quick money selling cars, and then they would lock themselves into these ridiculous payments. Like they'd be like, guys there would be like driving in with like these Mercedes or, BMW 7 Series, paying like, $800 a month leasing these cars, locking themselves into paying off these cars without really seeing, the macro version of what they could become. I mean, look, this is just my opinion. You can disagree with me or not. I don't really care. But I just felt like there was a short-sightedness amongst the car dealers because they just wanted to make their sales every month and make some money and then spend that money without thinking long-term. That's what I noticed. But they were still great. They were really talented, and I have a lot of respect for everyone who worked there because I wasn't the best car salesperson there by far, and I was really impressed with what I saw. So I got through the program, and then I began my car selling journey, right? And I was selling, I think, like 15, 16 cars a month, which is pretty good considering I just started there. But man, I started to break down. I was like, what am I doing here, right? Because selling cars, I mean, your schedule changes every single week. You have to deal with this influx of customers, right? Armenians, college kids, old people, Chinese people, whatever. It was like this melting pot of people that you'd have to interface with every single day. And you have to like stay on top of them. I think CarMax had us use our own phones. So I was constantly texting people. People were texting me back. I did well because I'm really authentic, and I think people trusted me. In fact, after I quit CarMax, people were still texting me to sell them cars. But it took a lot out of me. In fact, every week I had a different schedule, so I couldn't perform at night, or I had trouble, coordinating my own shoots. And I was really losing sight of who I was as a person. And I felt like, there was a turning point I had there where I was, there's this thing called e-office where you have to sit at the computers and, kind of take calls from the CarMax phone log, whatever the hell, and just kind of deal with customers. And you sit with a group of other car sales associates and, deal with customers. And I'd heard this guy talking about how he moved to Los Angeles to become an actor, right? Like 2 or 3 years ago. He's like, man, it's my dream to become an actor. He's like, I'm going to become an actor one day. And I was thinking, I didn't say anything, but I was thinking, here I am, a guy who actually was an actor, who went through that whole thing. And here's this guy talking about his dream of pursuing it. And what was sad was he never did it. He was still working at CarMax the past 2 or 3 years because he was making money every month. And it made me sad. And I was like, oh my God, you know what? I was so appreciative of, because I'm always like bitching about when I am auditioning, I'm like, man, fuck this audition. I really hate this shit. I hate being controlled by people, having my fate determined by somebody else. And then here I was listening to this guy just wishing he had the opportunity to be in front of a casting director, to be on set. And it really made me feel grateful for my life. And it also made me aware of that people can get stuck in jobs. And look, I'm not saying quit your job, but just be aware of where you are, because man, I've seen that again and again, of people getting this stuck in these jobs and then putting themselves in holes because they have to, pay off. We've all been there, and I get it. So, what was weird about I'm just going to say everything. I was working at CarMax, but I was trying to get out of there too. And I remember I had this interview at CAA, which I was to be an agent, right? And I go and meet with CAA, and they were like, so what are you up to? And I was like, yeah, I'm consulting clients. Meanwhile, like 2 hours ago, I'm trying to sell like a Cadillac to, a college kid. And I had to I totally lied. I was kind of ashamed of it. I felt like selling used cars had this kind of stink on it for some reason. Like, nobody took me seriously if I said that. I left it off my resume because I felt like if I said that, and maybe I'm wrong, but I felt like people would judge me and be like, well, he obviously has no other opportunities if he's selling cars in Burbank. So I wouldn't tell any of my showbiz friends, aside from my comedians. Comedians are okay, but I didn't tell anybody in the business that I was selling cars because I didn't want them to judge me. I didn't want them to think that I was down and out, which is a whole ego thing on my part. Again, not dissing used car dealers, but it's where I was. In fact, when I was selling cars, sometimes I would just go to, you have this master key to like go in any car you want. And I do these weird psychological things. I'd go in like an SUV and I'd like pretend, after I was done crying, I would pretend that like there's a chauffeur driving me. I was like, okay, I can mentally visualize myself being successful. So I tried to do different things to get me through the day, but it was exhausting. And I still have friends who work at CarMax, and they're great. But after 4 months, I was like, all right, I got to piece the hell out of here. Oh, most important of all, I met this guy there who was a writer, and we wrote a whole pilot, a TV pilot about selling cars. It's called No Money Down. It's on YouTube or somewhere. I'm sure you can find it. And we basically took all our experiences. He wrote it. I produced it. We both acted in it. And we made a whole pilot about selling cars. My God, that experience, that alone was a great learning experience, but that was exhausting. I learned, for me, because my friend wrote it and I produced it, I was like, I don't really like doing things if I don't have a hand in writing the story. That's just where I am. But it was still a great experience. And I really feel like that's why I was meant to go work at CarMax, to meet that guy and make that pilot, because that was a big part of my life a year and a half ago, and took everything out of me, to be honest. So after like 4 months, I peaced out. That's pretty much what I always do. I'm like, oh, okay, I think I'm done here. And they were really nice to me. They told me I could come back at any time. They left an open door policy. In fact, I still have my CarMax shirts and my hat and my jacket. Not that I want to go back, but I just keep them as souvenirs. I learned a lot from CarMax. In fact, I think I learned more in that training than I have in any of my jobs. And they really provide you a foundation of selling, which I think is really applicable anywhere you go in life. So sometimes I'm like, well, man, I'm just totally lost as a person, and I just feel like I'm spinning. But look, I've been in these situations before, and the great thing is, man, when you get your ass kicked, like the next time you get your ass kicked, it doesn't hurt as bad. You kind of know how your brain works, and every time I'm down, I'm able to just kind of take those blows way better than I did previously. And I'm able to rebound a lot stronger. So, I don't know. Take the story for what it is. If you want to work at CarMax, go look them up and send them a resume. If you have any experience selling, I'm sure they'll consider you. But it was positive. Again, not dissing them. I think it was a positive thing. Hope everyone had a great weekend and wishing you the best. Have a great day. Bye.